What's up, everybody? Welcome into the alternative edge. Like I always say, this is Tony Cotillo. This is where fantasy insights meet value plays. This is the fantasy football and sports betting section of the Tony Cotillo Show. So make sure you like and subscribe to Tony Cotillo Show. The alternative edge will go twice a week, as always, like I talked about. And tonight I want to break down my first underdog best ball draft recap, and lots of surprises here. Lots of surprises. See it right up there on the screen. We'll go through pick by pick, talk about what was surprising, way I came out of the draft. Am I happy? Which I am. I think I had some really good late round gems that we'll talk about. So as always, make sure you're liking and subscribing to that Tony Cotillo Show on YouTube. Make sure you get over there. If you're on X, pop over to the YouTube show if you can, show some support. Again, I really love talking. This is the time we talk fantasy. This is the time we talk prop betting and futures, and this is what I love. Right, I did this for 2 to 3 years, for serious every weekend. Loved every minute of it. But sometimes things don't work out. You got to go a different way, and look, it is what it is. I don't care because now I get to do this whenever I want, at any time I want. So again, and I'm a great partnership right now with the fantastic people over at Odd Shopper Tail. So more info to come on for that in the next coming weeks. Tell you how to get those parlays and everything when it goes into NFL season. But let's talk right and kick right off with the underdog draft. And I think the consensus of the number one pick. Let's just get right into it, man. I want to walk through this and talk about what Jamar Chase. Right, the first two picks off the board are Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. I think a lot of people their numbers 1 and 2. I think fantasy has definitely shifted to the receiver position, and it just continues to get stronger and stronger, especially this year, right? Because I do think there's a lot of question marks at the running back position. As great as the running back position was last year, I do think there's a lot more question marks this year, just based on usage, based on age, based on team concepts. It's just a lot to take in perspective, especially now where, I think what you have to remember is that even though Saquon had such a tremendous season, Derrick Henry had such a tremendous season, that they still needed those extra special games in order to get to that level. Meaning they weren't going to get the ball 25 plus times a game. Those days are over, right? So it's those big explosive plays, the big end zone touches that really are the main ingredient of their fantasy football success. And I think a lot of people forget about that. And in turn, what they do is they kind of overdraft, right? So I just want to talk about my own perspective. So when I go into this right away, looking at these top threes, which are Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, then we go Saquon. I'm not sure I take Saquon at that level. I still am going to be a Bijan Robinson guy right now this year. In that spot. And I think what really surprised me, and I was number 6. It's 12 teams. I was number 6. So we'll get to my team in a second. But Jahmyr Gibbs at number 5. And again, when you look at these running backs, they have to have explosive touches. I don't think you can really look at these running backs anymore and say it's all about how many touches they got. I think we have to look now at that running back position, and we have to look at explosive plays, and we have to look at explosive touches. And I think that's the only way we're going to be able to take those running backs up to that specific area. So for me, my money, I come up at 6. I do think out of that top 5, the surprise to me was Jahmyr Gibbs at 5. I'm really surprised. So at number 6, I still, my outside number 1 wide receiver this year in fantasy football is going to be Drake London. And last year I came in saying it was AJ Brown. And if it wasn't for a couple injuries, they're like that, it very well could have been AJ Brown. But this year, I do think with the development of Michael Penix and the way that offense is really constructed, and again, the explosive games that Drake London had, I do think Drake London has every opportunity to be that number one guy. Did I draft him here at that spot? No, only because looking at the way this went, I honestly thought I could come back and get him at 19, and I wasn't lucky enough to do that, which is fine. Kudos to I don't even want to say the name, whoever the JK the dog is here, because this was just a random best ball draft that I joined because I wanted to get my feel back. So I look at that. Good for him. Drake London at 14. I think that was good. So I take Amon-Ra St. Brown at number 6, who, for my money, is going to be the number 2 wide receiver in fantasy football this year. So, and it all depends. Again, like I don't care, who we're talking about at number 1, but I know that Amon-Ra is going to be, and again, for him, it's not going to be explosive touches at the wide receiver position. For him, it's just going to be max touches because that's what this guy does. Okay. This guy just is all around the football. 164 targets last year, 146 the year before. He goes from 109 to 119. And then again, you look at that game to game, target to catch ratio, and he's one of the best, man. 7 targets, 6 catches, 10 8, 8 6, 10 8, 7 5, 7 6, 8 8, 8 7. I mean, this guy 7 7, 8 6. You're throwing him the ball, he's catching it, right? He's catching it. And I know everybody wants to talk about Jameson Williams. This is the Jameson Williams here. It's Jameson Williams here. Listen, man, this is just going to be another great Amon-Ra St. Brown year. Now, last year, yardage is down by about 250 yards. Okay. Average was down from 12 and a half to 11. I don't look at touchdowns as you guys will start to see how I draft and how I do. I don't look at touchdowns. They are a premium stat. You cannot control how many times the guy gets in the freaking end zone. I say that all the time. Everybody wants to talk about touchdowns. Why are we talking about touchdowns? It doesn't matter. They are a premium, man. Like, you can't project touchdowns, okay? So I don't look at that. So looking at Amon-Ra, I just think with this offense, with the way that Jared Goff is going to be, he's easily going to be, he's already elite, okay? He's already elite, but listen, there's no way, barring injury, this guy is not going to get you 140 to 160 when the target time. And I think he catches over 120 balls this year. And I think he has 1260, goes back up to about 1,500. I do. I think that average goes up, eclipses at 12 again, and I think he's right there. So Amon-Ra for me was my pick, okay, at number 6. I didn't get Drake. That's okay. Drake London, I told you that. I didn't get Drake. That's okay. The guy beat me out coming back around. So, I take Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then the run goes, right, on the receiver. CeeDee Lamb, obviously, right? Another guy. Malik Neighbors. Very interesting. I want to get their temperature on Malik Neighbors. Now, I know everybody's buying in because you have a couple go up and get them kind of quarterbacks, and Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, whoever's going to be the quarterback. You have Jackson Dart, the rookie. You got a lot of guys just going to throw the ball up and hope Malik Neighbors grabs it. I listen, again, it did work out a little bit last year with George Pickens, but with Russ, we've seen it in Seattle with DK. But at this age, I do think that Malik Neighbors, his best bet would be to have Jameis Winston. I think we all agree on that, because the guys that Russ is going to target more are going to be a guy like Wan'Dale Robinson, who's going to get you 10 catches for 70 yards. Like, that's going to be that kind of Russell Wilson type of game plan. I don't see, Malik Neighbors putting up number 8 overall fantasy football numbers like he is in this draft based on Russell Wilson, a quarterback. I don't see it. I don't think that's even remotely possible. When we look at this. So I'm not looking at that I would say if Jameis Winston was that guy, we'd be in a different stratosphere. So I do like Malik Neighbors, though. I just think that as long as the attitude stays well within him, he'll be okay. Again, number 9, Christian McCaffrey, and I'm not going to go through the whole draft. I'm just going to go through the first couple rounds, and then we'll talk some value, right? Puka Nacua at number 10, tremendous pick. Puka to me is in that top 5. But again, this top 5 was Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra, CeeDee Lamb, Malik Neighbors. I think Puka goes above Malik Neighbors. I think Puka goes above CeeDee Lamb. And it's even with Devontae Adams. I don't care. I still think Puka gets his numbers. The forgotten guy, Nico Collins, 11. I mean, let's remember what Nico did. Okay. Let's remember what Nico did before, again, he only played 12 games last year, but when he was on the field, I mean, you're talking a lot of games where he put up major, major numbers. Now, that offense stuttered a little bit, okay, in the second year of CJ Stroud. So it should be interesting to see as long as get him healthy, he's there. I do think that as long as he's healthy, I think he's a lock for 100 catches this year. I think he gets 120 I'd say 120, 130 targets. They bring Christian Kirk over. That's fine. I think he gives him a lot of that stuff in the middle. They have Jaden Higgins, they have Jalen Noel, Xavier Hutchinson, a lot of names. So we shall see. Collins is a big guy, man. And we talk about this all the way. He out muscles guys. He's exactly every bit of what DeAndre Hopkins was, but probably even better, from a physicality standpoint. So I do think that, again, looking at what he offers, 14.8 yards per catch. Now, that was only 15th in the league last year. But guess what? He was ahead of guys like a Jamar Chase, a Zay Flowers, and a Tyreek Hill. So, again, he's very, very sneaky. Very, very sneaky. And I think he's easily a wide receiver 1. He's locked for 100 catches as long as he can stay healthy. And I think that 14.8 will go closer to the 2023 16.2. So I think he'll be around 15.5, when it comes to yards per catch. So I do think that that's something that we can look at. Again, this is Tony Cotillo right here on the Alternative Edge, part of the Tony Cotillo Show. Like, subscribe. As always, any fantasy questions, anything that you're looking at, what you're thinking about this best ball draft, let me know. Hit me up. I like to really get involved the first couple rounds, and then I'm going to give you my best ball gems that I was able to snag. Now, I come back around and I get the guy that I love, and that's Chase Brown. Now, I'm seeing a lot of people dogging a Chase Brown guy. Don't draft Chase Brown. Don't draft Chase Brown. Blah, 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 blah. Listen, man, I always say, just be careful. Sometimes too much knowledge can really hurt you, right? Because you just start deep diving in everything, you're going to pull something out. All I know is this guy, what did I talk about with Saquon? What I talk about with Bijan, right? We talked about earlier with the running back position. We need no more. It's not touches. It's about explosive plays, right? It's about explosive plays. And that's what I look at when we talk about Chase Brown. I look at explosive plays, and I look at where he was last year, and I look at, what we were projecting him to be. But again, you look at the way this offense is structured with so many mouths to feed in the passing game, and so much emphasis on those two big guys and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, that even though Mike Gesicki as a tight end, man, he takes a lot of pressure, off of Joe Burrow. But then you have this guy in Chase Brown who could be certified scat back at times, right? I mean, he had games where he was at over 5 and 6 yards per touch. Okay. And he does it in the passing game as well. He's had punting games with 8 and 11, respectively, when it comes to targets out of the backfield. So the one thing that I do really like, okay, about Chase Brown, that again, we talk about explosive plays, but because of those explosive plays, he was able to take everything except four. Now, I don't even take the first three games because the first three games, everybody thought was going to be Zach Moss. Last year, and his numbers were very indicative of that. He only literally had 14 touches in the backfield in the first three games because even Zach Taylor came in with the Zach Moss effect. Everybody thought it was going to be Zach Moss. I drafted Chase Brown, but everybody else was jumping on Zach Moss, and I had the last laugh. Okay, but when you look at week 4 on, it was only 1 week below double digits. Okay, which was week 7 at Cleveland, where he had a putrid 2.9 yards per carry. But I think we all know how good that defensive line was out there in Cleveland. So I don't even look at that. I look at all the other games, 26, 24, 19, 19. I mean, he had a stretch, okay, from week 9 in Vegas, okay, or against Vegas, I should say. Week 9 against Vegas. Take me all the way down to week 15 at Tennessee, where he literally went 26, 25, 19, 19, 24, 26. And by the way, again, he only scored 3 touchdowns in those games. That's what I mean by explosive plays. This guy was all over, and he was only getting the ball 12, 14, 13 times in some of those games, and he still had those explosive plays. And that's what takes you over the top. That's what takes you over the top. So, again, I liked Chase Brown, came back, got him on the reverse. Now, another guy that I love that I've been talking about, I come back and I get Kyron Williams. I think the best ball in my, the best ball formula to me this year is I do think you got to grab those RBs early. I do. I think because you get the stud RBs early, there's a lot more value from the wide receiver position, a lot more value from the tight end position. Quarterbacks, you can wait. There's a lot of very intriguing quarterbacks. I'll show you what I did. But I love Kyron Williams because, again, he's a guy that gets the recipient of that Sean McVay offense, a guy that is going to be put in many different spots at many different times, playing behind guys like Puka and Devontae, Tyler Higbee if he's healthy, right? Matthew Stafford's going to look for him in the passing game, but Sean McVay is going to allow him to run the rock. They have a very, very good offensive line when it's healthy, and he will continue. There was times when it was bad last year. That's because it was, again, because it wasn't always healthy. But when they were healthy, they showed that Kyron Williams could run and hit those holes. So love Kyron Williams. So I start off, I'm feeling good. Amon-Ra St. Brown as one receiver. I go Chase Brown, Kyron Williams. Now, are to go all the way down. You see the first 2 quarterbacks off the board are Lamar Jackson and Jaden Daniels. I'm sorry. Josh Allen was the first quarterback, and then 2 and 3 Lamar Jackson. I think the Jaden Daniels thing was a surprise at 36. I think people have to really, really remember. I mean, look at CJ Stroud last year. That Commanders team, I don't want to see they caught lightning in a bottle, and this kid's really good. I get it. But I don't know if I can put all my eggs in that basket. Right? Now it is best ball. So if you're going to draft Jaden Daniels, then I think you come back a little earlier than others and get another quarterback. Now, I was a little surprised. This guy takes Jaden Daniels at 36, and guess what? He doesn't take another quarterback until 132 with J.J. McCarthy, and he only takes 2 quarterbacks. That's suicide to me in best ball. That's suicide. I like, if I don't have 2 studs, I need 3 quarterbacks. So I don't like that play at all. I don't like that play at all. So for me, I come back on the reverse, and I was honestly looking to get Jalen Hurts. I thought I was going to be able to get him. He goes 41, and I missed him out by 2 picks. So I take the value on the board. And for me, that value, because I already have Chase Brown and Kyron Williams, I don't take James Cook for a third running back. I take DK Metcalf. Listen, I'm extremely excited about what's going to go on out there in Pittsburgh. I know everybody's not happy about Aaron Rodgers. Let me just tell you something. Aaron Rodgers still throw the ball up, go get it. We watched it last year when he was on his game at times. He just threw the ball up and went get Garrett Wilson, right? I mean, Aaron Lazard. I mean, these guys just go up and get the ball. DK, again, listen, he's out to prove it. And when you have usually Mike Tomlin is that guy that you can play around. And he really likes to get involved with this talent. So I like the DK pick a lot. I think it's a lot of value. Now, right after that, DJ Moore, Xavier Worthy. I like all three of those picks, to be honest with you, because I'm a big Ben Johnson guy. So I definitely like what's going on out there in Chicago. I do think that Ben Johnson is going to turn that around. So I take DK Metcalf, and then I'm going to show you like my strategy. Okay. I really think I nailed this draft, and we're going to see where it goes. But I think I nailed this draft, and I think it started on the reverse. So I really like Chuba Hubbard. I do. However, I'm looking at the board, and I already see 4 quarterbacks gone: Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts. So I say to myself, do I pull the trigger? And I'm glad I did. And it was either going to be Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow. Now, hear me out. This actually played exactly the way I predicted, and I didn't expect it. Now, we already had Brock Bowers go for the tight end position. We already had Trey McBride go to tight end position. We already had George Kittle go at tight end position. Now we're in the 6th round. We're at 67. So, well, let's go Patrick Mahomes at 54. So I'm at 54, and I know I'm taking a quarterback just because I have a theory that it's going to start. Things are going to start to evolve. I take Patrick Mahomes. Why? Because Patrick Mahomes is still a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. Okay. He could be number 1. Fantasy wise, he's dipped off. I get it. But this year, if health is there, if Rashee Rice gets healthy, Xavier Worthy, another year of him. Okay. Hollywood Brown, healthy. Again, I mean, these guys get healthy, and Travis Kelce, that dude's prideful. He knows what's been talked about. So he wants to come back and prove that he can still play. Now, is he going to put up 1,500 yards? No. But in my mind, I'm thinking if I could get Travis Kelce in this draft and pair him up with Patrick Mahomes in a best ball draft, I think I'm winning. So I take Patrick Mahomes at 54, and I'm like, I'm going to have to take TK on the way back. I already know because he's not going to last. And it worked out exactly how I planned. I take Patrick Mahomes. Nobody takes a quarterback again. And then right before me at 66, somebody takes Joe Burrow. Congratulations. They got their guy. However, I get my guy in Travis Kelce. I think is a steal in the 6th round at 67. I think it's a steal for me in this draft. And then I said to myself, okay, I still want to go with another really solid receiver. Can I get another solid? I like a big 3. I do. And I'm going to be honest with you. I think another value play I get, I know everybody's looking at Keon Coleman, but I still think it's Khalil Shakir out there in Buffalo. I watched it last year. He's all over. He could go deep. He could go slot. He could go across the middle. He can go post. He could come out of the backfield as a gadget guy. I really, really like what Khalil Shakir. I know my man Japan will watch this later, and he'll be hyping it up. But Khalil Shakir does everything. Okay, so for me, again, lots of value. That's why this is called the alternative edge. Fantasy insights meet value plays. And this is a value play. This, again, exactly. See, you just said clip this and send it to Japan. Listen, I look at getting a guy like Khalil Shakir at 78 in the 7th round in a best ball draft. And you look at who goes after him. Deebo Samuel, question mark. Jacoby Myers, question mark. Now, one could say that the guy that could have been taken at 78 and a better pick would be Josh Downs. I think Josh Downs will be a PPR monster. However, I'm still not sold on that offense out there in Indy. So I know what I'm getting. This is my for me. I've said this, whether it be on Sirius, whether it be on VSiN, whether it be here. I say it all the time. If I'm tied up between 2 offensive players, especially a receiver, I'm always looking at the QB. Who's got the better QB? And it's going to be hard pressed to find a better QB than Josh Allen. So for me, I go with the better QB that's tied with the receiver, which is Khalil Shakir. So I take him. And then Jaden Reed, question mark. Stephon Diggs, question mark. Darnell Mooney, he could be a question mark. Okay. He wasn't consistent. So, I'm looking at these guys, and then before I even get to 91, Ricky Pearsall, question mark. Matthew Golden, am I going to wrap on a rookie at 78? No. Okay. So now what do I do? So now I can tell you, here's my dilemma. I look at, do I go value, in my opinion, with wide receiver? Because I do think that I could get some extreme value in round 8 with Brandon Ayuk. Okay. I think Brandon Ayuk can give you really value at 92 overall in this draft. However, I take a shot. My shot is, I told you before, I love Ben Johnson. Okay. And I like 2 very, very good quarterbacks. So I go Caleb Williams. And I go Caleb Williams because I say to myself, I want to pair him up with a value guy later on. Now, I know, obviously, DJ Moore's gone. Odunze is gone. I get all that. So I want to do the same thing in my best ball team where I have Mahomes and Kelsey. So I'm looking at Caleb Williams like, all right, I know I could get Loveland later on, the rookie, the tight end from Chicago. I know. And again, remember how Ben Johnson would utilize the tight end position with Sam Laporta. Was he worried about Sam Laporta as a rookie? Hell no. Was Loveland, is he as touted as Laporta? No. However, same situation, same offensive guy. So I look at this and go, okay, I'm going to take Caleb Williams, and then I'm going to come back and take Loveland. Well, here's the thing. I look at the draft board, and I see how it's going, and a bunch of people, you see, I started wrong. Kyler Murray goes, who you guys know, if you follow me, I can't stand. Bo Nix, gone. Justin Fields, gone. Now the tight end starts going. Jonnu Smith. But then I was like, okay, if the tight ends start to go, I'm going to take Loveland. But then it didn't. Goes Brock Purdy, BR Jr., okay? And then I think I tell you guys, it's all about value. To me, a steal, an absolute steal. And that's Tyrone Tracy Jr., sitting there at 102. Okay. 102 overall. Tyrone Tracy Jr. To me, again, he's an absolute stud because he could do it all. And that team is going to be all over the place. So they're just going to be trying to find something that clicks. And Dable, if he can rely on Tracy, no matter who's a quarterback, they're going to need a solid running game out there. We already know it, whether it's Jameis, whether it's Russ, whether it's Jackson Dart, doesn't matter. They need a solid running game. And then Tyrone Tracy showed you last year that he could be that PPR guy too. So for me, 102, I go Tracy because I know, I feel it. Nobody's looking at Colson Loveland that I can get him later. And I played it right. Okay. Because I looked at who was, guys and girls, listen, look at who's on your charts. This is why I do a tier system before I go in my drafts. Okay. I do a tier system because you have to read the room. Okay. Best ball is a little harder, right? Because best ball, there's so many different positions. Meaning that, you're going to go 18, 20 rounds. Everybody's in play. It's a little different. There's no actual lineup, so to speak, right? So you have to look at this, realistically. And when I was looking at the tight ends, I was like, all right, look, you still got David Njoku. Somebody's obviously he's going before Loveland, right? I still think Evan Ingram would go, and he did, okay, before Loveland. So I'm like, I know I can get Loveland here. I know I can get him. And guess what? At 115, I get Loveland. So now look at the way the team's set up, okay? Look at the way it's team. So now I have Caleb Williams, and I have the tight end Loveland, okay? I got Patrick Mahomes, and I have Travis Kelce. And look what I do coming back around. I grab another Kansas City Chief value in Hollywood Brown. So now I have the trifecta, okay, of Kansas City. This is best ball again. This is best ball. So now I have the trifecta. Now, what do? Let's start looking at some depth, okay? Let's start looking at some depth. You're going to see, again, a pattern here. All right, now Trey Benson didn't have a great year last year in Arizona. I love James Conner. However, Trey Benson goes, he adds about 5 to 10 pounds of muscle, wants to get a little tougher. He says, I know I can ball out there. Guess what? He's going to be a very important piece of that Arizona offense this year. I feel it. To get him at 139, I'm in. I come back. Then let's go down. Roshan Johnson. You see the Chicago moniker, right? Again, you see what I'm doing. I'm building in best ball trifectas of the teams and the offenses that I really like based on the value. Okay? Based on the value. And then I go down, and what do I get? I get Aaron Rodgers. Who do I have up top? DK Metcalf. It's best ball, fellas. So guess what? If Pittsburgh has a bomb-ass week, I got them both. If Kansas City has a bomb-ass week, I got all three. Okay? If Chicago has a bomb-ass week, I got three. That's how my team is set up. And then, listen, I have my last three picks. I'm going to get out of here on this. I absolutely love. De'Ami Brown played a critical role last year with Washington. He goes over with that offense that's going to try to revitalize himself. There's no more Christian Kirk. There's no more Gabe Davis, right? De'Ami Brown goes over to Jacksonville. I think he carves himself a role over there. Okay, no more Evan Ingram. He carves himself a role over there, and I think that he could be a very solid wide receiver too, easily. Okay, and to get him at 187 in the 16th round of an 18-round best ball draft to me is great. And then you always got to find those. And again, I'm not a Taysom Hill guy, but when I can get a guy in Taysom Hill, okay, that can be involved in so many different statistical categories at 198 as my backup, technically, even though they all play, obviously, it's all about who scores the most that week. But Taysom Hill at 198, I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. And by the way, I love 199 Dalton Schultz. I think that was a fantastic pick, okay, for the next team in line. I think that was a fantastic pick. And then I finish up with, again, this could be the steal of my draft. This could be the steal of my draft. Raheem Mostert. I took Raheem Mostert last. And I know everybody's be like, okay, so what? Raheem, what are you getting so excited about Raheem Mostert for? Well, I'm getting excited because I have another explosive guy, right? Another explosive guy. And I know you're going to give me the Ashton Genty. I get it. But guess what? Ashton Genty is going to be used in so many varieties and packages out there that there's going to be many a times where both these cats are going to be on the field. So again, Raheem Mostert gives me that opportunity. He's the last pick in the draft. He's my last pick. And again, I don't look at touchdowns, but when I look at best ball, I just look at the guy's opportunity that can fill up a stat board if he needed to. He could easily score double-digit touchdowns, possibly, right? I took him in the 18th round. So again, I love Raheem Mostert. So what I will say this as I sign out here on the alternative edge. The reason why I want to recap this is give you an idea of how I get different, how I look at value. In this best ball draft, I have three trifectas on three of the same teams of three offenses in Detroit, Chicago, in Pittsburgh, and Kansas City, where I think I'm high on them for certain reasons. And I love the fact that I can have all of them as explosive plays every single week. That's how I did it. Now, how do you do it? What's your next draft going to be like? So make sure you keep following right here on the Alternative Edge, part of the Tony Cotillo Show. Obviously, it has its own playlist, has its own times, it has its own shows. Get with me in the comments in YouTube. Break it down. Let me know what you're thinking. Got any questions? Hit me up. I'd love to answer them. I'd love to help as much as I can. Maybe you can help me as well. Okay, but I really like this as a solid breakdown for a team that gives you multiple opportunities to score in so many different facets. So again, I'm Tony Cotillo. Everybody, this is the Alternative Edge. Stay tuned. Make sure you're following the Tony Cotillo Show on TikTok. make sure you're following the YouTube show because I'm gonna be dropping some top threes when it comes to bets, and obviously gonna be dropping a lot of betting content powered by our good fellows and our partners over there at Odd Shopper and Odd Shopper Tales. So already dropped some props last week, the week before, really getting them together. We're gonna put some very, very interesting parlays together for week one in the month of August. So get ready for that. But as always, this is the Alternative Edge where fantasy insights meet value plays. We'll catch you back here another time, probably Thursday, for some more best ball talk, fantasy football, and future